Hi, I'm Amy Webb. Thank you so much for being here. And if you're returning, welcome back. This video is all about the hidden dangers of productivity, something that's really close to my heart. And this is really for those women that are ambitious, sensitive, sometimes feeling anxious, sometimes feeling self-doubt. This video is for you. If you've been searching for some help around empowering you to release and move through anxiety and self-doubt, and how you can actually turn that into a powerful source of change in your life, I would highly recommend subscribing to this channel. There's a new video that I'll release every Thursday, and you just need to subscribe below and hit the bell to get notified of the new videos each week. I've worked with so many women over the last 5 years that have been caught in this trap of productivity, the feeling of needing to always produce more. I come from a corporate background, so many of the women I work with also come from that corporate background, and we tend to have that in common, that experience of feeling trapped in this cycle of needing to get more done all the time. And sometimes we miss out on what's actually going on beneath the surface. One of my clients, Joy, went through something like this about 6 months ago before she joined our program. At the beginning of this time, she was experiencing a whole lot of anxiety related to feeling stuck on this vicious cycle in the corporate space around being productive all the time and feeling like she could never measure up to the amount of work she had on her plate. Joy has done amazing work in our program. She has been able to sustain lower levels of anxiety. She joined our program with anxiety levels at an 8 or a 9 out of 10. And 6 months later, she's at a 2 or a 3 out of 10 and sustaining it. And that's because she really took the time to understand what was going on for her beneath the surface and to give herself that space to actually look at how the cycle of productivity and the need to always be productive was impacting her. She really took a hard look at that, and it's really changed her life. So let's get into the hidden dangers so you can avoid finding yourself in that same trap. The first thing is to notice where your behavior is driven from, because it's really hard to stop something when we don't understand what's driving us to do that thing. Have you noticed that society tends to value your productive self a lot more than, say, your emotional self? Or another way to put it is the part of you that's more surface level, the part of you that is like your corporate face, if you work in corporate, or your professional face, but then that part of you that's underneath the surface, tends to be devalued or kind of masked in our society. Have you noticed that happens? When we live in this way where we essentially feed that model of thinking, where we tend to value being productive over valuing our emotional needs, we tend to create this fracture in our personality, this fracture in our sense of self, where we have one face when we're at work and another face when we're at home. And perhaps only a very select few people get to see who you are beneath that productive, busy, corporate or strategic type woman that gets it all done. And it's not to say that part of you is wrong in any way. It's beautiful. But what about this other part of you that's really calling for your attention? I think that for me is really where the hidden dangers lie in this incessant drive to be productive. And when we're not aware that this is happening, that we have one face for work and one face for behind closed doors, we tend to create this space where we feed the productive self and we feed the ability to get lots of things done so that we look successful, and we minimize our emotional needs. And what that creates is a sense of self-abandonment. And I'd love to know if this is resonating with you. Hit the like button below and leave me a comment. I would love to hear if this is resonating, if this is something that you've found in your own life, if it's something you're going through at the moment. And if it's something that you want to change, let me know in the comments below. I can completely relate with this idea of feeling split in my personality. About 7 years ago, when I was in the thick of my own marketing career, I experienced this. I really felt lost and I didn't really know where to turn to. I felt like I put all of my value and my worthiness in being productive at work. And when I couldn't be productive, I felt like I wasn't good enough. I felt like I was failing. I felt like nobody understood what I was going through and I couldn't share what I was going through. And that created this real dissonance with myself. It made it really hard to feel healthy in my brain, to feel mentally well. And I know with everything that we're going through globally at the moment, I can only assume that you can really relate with what I'm saying here, and that perhaps you're going through this as well. That feeling of being really split and not really knowing how to communicate your needs or how to even move through them. And the question is, how do we understand our emotions? How do we get to know what it is that we're feeling when we're feeling just really lost in being productive all the time? And the answer lies in your body. It lies in listening to your body and understanding the depths of your emotions, the energy that you have inside you, the mental chatter and the overthinking, and starting to get a sense of what is actually happening under the surface. If we deny what is under the surface, it will continue to rise up and cause problems, and essentially it will make you feel really unproductive. And the more you do this, the less yourself you will feel and the more anxious you will become. There are many articles online now talking about the mental health impact that remote working is having on many, many people across our country and across the world. And it's an area that is creating more anxiety. It's kind of proven now that mental health is really suffering as a result of being stuck at home, being forced to work from home, and not being able to necessarily take breaks in the normal way that we would if we were in an office, let's say. And so one of the trends has been to overwork and overachieve as a way to receive satisfaction, as a way to feel good. But the downside of being overly productive and not giving yourself enough time to check in and notice what you're feeling in your body and do practices that help you to listen to what's going on beneath the surface, the downside is anxiety comes up when we're not listening to our body. And so the more productive you become because you really value that productivity, the more anxious you may also come because you're devaluing your emotional needs. What would happen if, rather than filling every void with more work and more ways to be productive, you actually made some space to really listen to your own body, to notice what you're feeling, to give yourself the permission to actually feel it, and to encourage yourself to open up on a deeper level? What would happen if you allowed yourself to do that just a little bit? I have so many examples of women that have been focusing on investing in themselves in a way where they can learn how to prioritize their emotional needs. It's not something that just happens naturally when you've been so used to valuing productivity over your emotional needs. But when you do start to introduce this understanding that there's two parts of you in a really simplistic way, there's two parts of you. There's the part of you that is masculine in her approach, that wants to get things done, wants to create really awesome things in the world, wants to be motivated, wants to be passionate. And there's this other part of you, which is the feminine part of you, which is much softer, much more nurturing, much more loving, much more tender, much more graceful. And so when we bring these two aspects of ourselves together, we can be both really productive and do amazing things and utilize our intelligence, but also give ourselves the space to rest and to be quiet and to really listen and to allow the emotions that we're experiencing to wash through our being. Life is always more productive when we meditate. I have learnt this in so many different stages of my life over the last 10 years, and it is still part of my daily practice in some way. I always check in with myself now, and I do that because I've experienced rock bottom. I've experienced what it's like to minimize my emotions and my needs and try to maximize my productivity. I'm sure there's plenty of ways or videos you've watched online where you've worked out ways to make yourself more productive, do more, be more, have more. And I wonder if you've spent the same amount of time looking into what you're needing emotionally so that you can thrive as a healthy, happy human being. I know you might be thinking, because I've heard this lots of times, if you stop, maybe you'll crumble. What would happen if I start meeting my emotional needs? Will I just kind of fall into a Pandora's box and not be able to get out? And the short answer is no and yes. Sometimes that can happen. Sometimes if we've not met our emotions for such a long period of time and we've suppressed those emotions, it can feel like there's this opening up and this waterfall of emotions that needs to come through. But the thing is, and the truth honestly is, those emotions are going to come up anyway, whether you try to suppress them or not, especially in these times we're living in. It's such a turbulent time, and it's like we're under this pressure cooker. So if you're not meeting your emotions, at some point they will come out, and it would be easier, more effortless, more soft and gentle if you give yourself more space to just start to integrate noticing how you're feeling a little more into your life slowly. We tend to be awesome problem solvers when it comes to our work, but when it comes to our emotional needs and actually giving ourselves some space to unpack things and have a look around and be curious about what's happening underneath the surface for you, we tend to kind of push that away. Or perhaps you can resonate with feeling like you're a great problem solver for somebody else in your life, able to give advice, give guidance, support. But again, when it comes to you, you're the last one on the list. And I talk about overgiving in this video. If that's happening for you, it's okay. It's not your fault. Really, our society is set up for us to value productivity over all things. And the thing is, I still love to feel productive. I want my clients to feel productive. Productivity is awesome. It feels satisfying. It feels good to be productive. But what I would suggest is working on how you can be both productive and listen to your needs. And this isn't to say that productivity isn't awesome. I love feeling productive. I love feeling like I'm in a flow and productivity is just happening naturally and effortlessly. It's the forced productivity and the lack of meeting our emotional needs that I don't really resonate with. I don't think it's very helpful, and I see so many women burn out because of it. So what would be an awesome equation to start to bring into your life is to both be productive and also listen to your body's needs emotionally. And this is really where the true power lies. This is really what alignment is. Alignment means that we're in the slipstream of our productivity, and it's easy and effortless to move into our creative channel and make things happen. Sometimes we are over efforting, and it can take us a lot longer to get tasks done when we're from that place. But when you come back into an alignment with yourself, with your emotions, with your energy, with your mental self, with your beliefs, that's when the magic really happens. There's so much power in listening to your intuitive, instinctual needs and activating your intellect and putting those two things together. An awesome book that I recommend in our course is from Dr. Tara Swart. It's called The Source. And it's an incredibly powerful book to help you in understanding how neuroplasticity works and how we can harness our whole brain to allow it to fire in both our intuitive ways and in our really intellectual, analytical ways. We need both. We truly need both to live a really fulfilling life. And when we meet our emotional needs and when we go through the doorway of understanding our anxieties, that's where we can meet this intuition. And that's essentially what I teach in my course. If these times have taught me anything, it's that you can't build your house on a rocky foundation. That when we try to be productive all the time without meeting what's happening underneath, we create this rocky foundation and our house eventually will fall. And that looks like burnout, exhaustion, anxiety attacks, panic attacks. So why not start today? Today, set some 15-minute blocks in your calendar and just set it as self-reflection time, and use this time to just go outside, stand outside and ask yourself what you're feeling. Ask yourself what is happening inside you. You might just put your hand on your heart or your belly and just ask, what is it that I'm feeling right now? What is coming up for me? Don't be afraid to ask yourself this question, because the more you give yourself permission to ask how you're going, the more you will come back into an alignment with yourself, and you will start to trust in your body's experiences and sensations and anxieties a little more, so that you can get just that one step closer to really starting to unpack what is keeping you from feeling really good and in flow in your life. When we combine our intelligence and our intuition, we truly become like superwomen. We can do anything from that place, because ultimately our intuition helps us to be guided by our inner being, by what's really true and authentic for us, from our gut instinct. And our intellect helps us to create really awesome things in the world, helps us to be able to collaborate with different people in different work settings, helps us to be able to create businesses if we want, helps us to attract what it is that we're wanting into our life. There's so many benefits in accessing both parts of ourselves. And the intuition speaks through your body's signals, through your body's guidance, through your body's emotions, through your body's energy. So unless you meet your emotional needs and kind of devalue productivity for a moment so you can do that, you won't be able to get there. So we want to allow this whole inner world within you to open up so you can use both this part of you as well as this part of you. We want to be able to think and feel. Think and feel. I hope that's helped you to paint a picture of the hidden dangers of productivity and also give you some inspiration about unlocking your intuition, unlocking your true power, unlocking your emotions, no matter how heavy or challenging they are. And if you want more support with this, I highly recommend going and listening to my free training. You can access that in the links below. If you liked this video, you might also like these videos. And please, please, please remember to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell to get notified of new videos every single Thursday. I'm so excited to be here with you, and thank you so much for watching and sharing it with your friends. I'll see you soon.